Guys, your look is so incredibly important if you're going to do anything on television, right? I mean, what you wear, how you wear it, the way you comb your hair. These are all very important things. And as obvious as this might be, I got a reminder of it because I watched a show on The Ultimate Warrior. Do you guys remember Jim Hellwig? You remember him played a character called The Ultimate Warrior in the WWE in the late 80s and through the 90s a little bit. But one thing that happened when the Warrior left, the Warrior had a very bad attitude. He did not like the wrestling business. He did not like being on the road. He did not like the fellow wrestlers. He used to go backstage before his matches and he would demand his own dressing room. He wouldn't even interact with the rest of the boys, which in the wrestling business is very frowned on. For you to act like a diva like that, they would very much look down and, hey, come in here. We're all together. We're all together to go out and try to do some business. We're all helping each other. And if anybody in here gets a little more shine than the rest of the crew, we still all get elevated by this. We're in it together, so we're going to make you look good. I'm going to put you over. You're going to put me over. We're going to build this card. We're all going to share in the pot. So then when you separate yourself from the group like he did and you demand your own locker room, that in large part is saying, we're not in this together. Don't care about you guys. Care about me. Only here for me. Now, I only bring that to you. You feel free to think whether that's nice or rude or something else. Just telling you how it was viewed by the boys back then. So Warrior started not showing up at events. And if you're Vince, and Vince does a lot of house shows, but he did more house shows back then. He would do 250 shows a year. He would be on TV 52 times a year, once a week. But he was holding another 200 shows. House show means you must be in the house to see the show. There's no cameras. It's not televised. Okay, that's what that term comes from. Vince would sell out arenas because he promised that Warrior was coming. Some kid would tug on his dad's arm and say, hey, my favorite wrestler's coming to town. Can you get some tickets? Take me to the show. So dad shows up with his son at the event. Warrior didn't get on the airplane. Unannounced. No refunds. No one knows until you get there and starting to make Vince look bad. So Vince was having a hard time with the Warrior. And at least the way the storyline went is Warrior had to put X amount of money into escrow in case he never no-showed at an event again. And Vince was going to use that money and pay back the fans. Now, whether that was a storyline or that was real, it was presented as though it was real, and there's a part of me that believed it. Call me a mark, but part of me that believed it, so they get to a Survivor Series. Warrior's the main event. He's in the building, and he goes up to Vince and says, you're going to give me $1 million right now or I don't walk through the curtain tonight. You have a sold-out show. Everybody's here to see me. It's on pay-per-view. It's called closed caption at the time. It's going to do great numbers. I'm not walking through the curtain without $1 million. So Vince wrote him a check for $1 million. Warrior went out, had his match, came back. Vince said, feel free to keep that check. You are fired. Get out of my building. Warrior leaves. Warrior returns, okay? I assure you guys I've got a point here. Stay with me, but we're having a little bit of fun. Warrior returns 5 years later, and Vince has now forgiven him. And Warrior was the biggest thing in wrestling. He was not over the life of it. He didn't sell more tickets and T-shirts than Hulk Hogan. But for a period of time, even when he was opposite Hulk Hogan, he was the bigger draw. It was a very short period. We're talking about 18 months here, 24 months. But he was the biggest star in wrestling. So when he leaves and comes back or is flirting with the idea of coming back, Vince has to take it. I'm in. Warrior's coming back. This is going to be massive. Bring him in. So Warrior comes in. Well, on day one, you saw this wasn't going to work. It was the same guy doing the same thing. Why does it not work? Because he didn't look the same. He did not look the same. He was not in the same shape. He was in worse shape. His hair was not the same length. It was a different length. His facial hair was not the same with the makeup. It now looks different. It was one of these things where that's just not the image that everybody has. That's something different, and you're selling largely the image. And Vince believes that every character needs tweaked, even if slightly so, every 12 months. Whatever you're doing 12 months in, change the color of your headband. Change the color of your robe. Offer something light, but give a little bit of a mix-up. When Warrior came back, this was nothing that anybody remembered, so there was no nostalgia. The nostalgia's gone. The guy who you remembered and that you reminisced about, who you thought was coming back, who you were told is coming back, is not there. And I've seen this on very small scales. Floyd Mayweather just did it. There is an image and a look and something to be said for the brand that is Money Mayweather. And when he showed up to the Paul event, he hadn't been to a barber in a minute. He's got this weird facial hair. It looked like homeless Floyd. But either way, homeless Floyd or not, that's not the Floyd that we're familiar with and that we paid to see. That is somebody else. And it was weird. I've given the same tough advice to Charles Oliveira, who some days bleaches his hair and some days doesn't. Some days he's wearing glasses and some days he isn't. We can't get used to your character, your gimmick, or who you are and what you look like. It's as though you're in disguise. Every time we see you, if you look different, that's not good. You got to hold it for a year and then you can change it slightly. That is the recipe. And I bring it to you because you guys know where I'm going with this by now. Jon Jones. Jon Jones, by choice, openly and admittedly, is going to change his physiology. Is it for the better? Is it for the worse? I'm into the experiment. This is not a hate Jon session at all. But I can't see the piece that I just saw on the Ultimate Warrior, who removed himself and attempted to come back, and nobody realized this was going to happen. Even somebody as smart as Vince McMahon could not see that 5 years later, you're not the same guy. And he signed him to millions of dollars, ends up having to send him out to pasture and just send him a check anyway. We can't use you. Because he looked different. He operated different. He moved different. That was not the guy. That was not the guy that when Vince closed his eyes and remembered and re-signed him this time, it's not the guy that left. And that was on accident. That was just father time. That happens to all of us. Jon's doing it on purpose. So not only do we know for sure that the next Jon that we see in the cage is not going to be the Jon we've seen before. Not only do we know that just because time is removed, and we know that as human beings, we don't get better at something by not doing it. Our skills don't sharpen by not doing it. Conor McGregor just turned in the single worst performance of his career against Dustin Poirier. We're not mad at Conor. We understand. We understand ring rust is real. But it happened, and it happened due to inactivity and the changing of physiology. He starts at 145 pounds. He bulks his way up to 170 pounds. Then he decides, I'm going to go meet in the middle back at 155 pounds. That was on accident. He was partying, and he had some distractions, and he had some successes and a little money in his pocket, which gave him access to a higher level of scumbag that wanted to spend their time with him. That was on accident. On accident. Conor turned in the worst performance ever. Jon's going to do it on purpose. On purpose, he's going to get in the ring and look like somebody that we've never seen before. It could be a better version. I told you this isn't a hate on Jon piece. I'm into the experiment. I've actually got good hopes for it. I think that Jon's skills at heavyweight transfer very well, but I can't watch the piece on the Ultimate Warrior and not think about Jon, who's trying to put on weight, who's trying to look different, who admittedly will not be at the same speed. And that's what happens, right? Everything in life's a choice. In sport, if you want to have really good cardio, you're out there running a lot, you're probably not going to have really big muscles. If you want to be a big muscle guy, you're probably not going to be able to run very far, right? It's a trade. That's a trade is all I'm trying to say. So Jon is leaving his best years behind him. The three things that will age you faster than anything: alcohol, drugs, and lawsuits. Stepping into a different class, going to come back looking different, admittedly. Why would we think we're going to get a different result? What would be special? What magic wand is getting waved over Jon's career that Conor didn't have? What magic wand is going to be waved over Jon's career so that he can look different, be different, yet still get the same result that Warrior didn't have waved over his career? And I tell you this, every time I come to talk about Jon, it's because I'm not getting what I want. There's a selfish side. Apparently, I'm a Jon Jones fan, apparently, because I know that I do want to see him fight. I know I don't like him, but I must miss him because I don't come talk about him so that he continues to do what he's doing. I come and talk about him so that he will do something different, which is to compete. Apparently, I'm a fan.